Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar introducing OzoBlockly Mode 5 for Bit and Evo. The first thing that I want to do is just make sure that everybody can see and hear us properly. There is a little section on your sidebar. It's called questions. If you can go ahead and just type in there yes, just so I know that you all can hear and see us. Perfect. All right, I'm seeing them come through. Sounds good. All right, so what we'll do first is a quick introduction. My name is Tara, and I am an education coordinator here at Ozobot.
And I'm Teresa, and I'm an education curriculum specialist.
So we're really excited to be doing this webinar with you because we've been waiting for Mode 5 to come out for a while now, and it's finally being released, or it has just been released. So we wanted to do this webinar to go over some of the new categories that we've introduced and to kind of show you how to work within Mode 5. The first thing I want to do before we go into the webinar, we have a few poll questions that we'd like for you to answer, just to give us a little more information about you guys and what you're currently doing in the classroom. So our first poll, I'm going to go ahead and launch it, and I'll give everyone just a few seconds to go ahead and answer. So the first poll is, what grades do you currently work with? So we have a K to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12, and other. Okay, just waiting on a few more people to respond. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and show everyone the results. So it looks like there's a tie. K to 2 is 57%, 3 to 5 is 57%, 6 to 8 is 54%, and then 9 to 12, 24%, and other at 7. So I'm guessing that a lot of you are K to 8, but that's great. We have a good mix of everybody. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the next poll question. Let's see. Do you teach computer science? And this is a easy yes or no question.
And even if it's just coding, that would count for computer science.
Mm-hmm. And it could be, it doesn't have to be a whole course. It can just be if you're using some computer science within your lessons. All right. So I'll give you just a few more seconds to get everyone's answers in. All right, let's go ahead and close this and share the results. 70% of you, yes, and 30% no. Okay. And one more question for you. Have you used OzoBlockly or done any coding before? I'll give you a little bit of time to enter in your answers again. Perfect. You guys actually did this one very quickly. Share results. 94% of you yes, and 6% of you no. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you all for participating in that. We did go over the little question section of your sidebar. Some of you have already asked some questions in there. If you guys can just hold off on that until the very end of the presentation. It's hard for us to see all your questions in that little sidebar while we're doing the presentation. So we just ask you to hold all questions to the very end. After the presentation, we'll open it up, and then in that little section, type in your question. We'll read it out loud so that everyone can hear the question and then also the response as well, because I'm sure a lot of you have some of the same questions. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now, make sure that you can see it, and then I'm going to take my webcam off so you guys can focus on the web portion of this. I'm going to quickly run through our website. So if we go to ozobot.com, I'm going to show you where to find all the educational resources. Some of those Teresa is going to be going over in just a second. So the first place I want to take you to is where to find our lessons, because we are going to be going over some of the lessons here a little bit later. So when I'm on the ozobot.com website, I'm going to click on the Educators tab right here at the top. I'm going to scroll down, and you can either click on this button right here, find lessons, or this little section right here that says lessons. So I'm going to click on it, and very simple, I'm right here in the lesson library. We've kind of categorized our basic training lessons here at the top. So we have the basic training color code lessons, basic training OzoBlockly lessons, and then our new deconstruction computer science series. If you don't know about this, because it's relatively new, go ahead and click on that and kind of look through the lessons. And then we do have another webinar that we did just a few months ago. So you can go ahead and check out that webinar too. It's located on our website. You can just rewatch it. Here's our fun search feature for the lessons. All you have to do is click on this search button, and it takes you to our filter, and you can search by grade level, subjects and topics, robot, lesson type, etc. And then you can just see a list of lessons here as well. The next place I want to take you to is OzoBlockly. So this is how you're going to access the OzoBlockly editor. You're just going to go to OzoBlockly.com. It's really simple. If you scroll down here on the main page, here's a quick intro to OzoBlockly. You can watch that tutorial. It's only about 2 minutes. Very simple. You can even have the kids watch it and they can pick up on it. And then if you scroll down to the very bottom of the page, you'll see this game section. This is a section that not a lot of people know about, and I like to point out very quickly. Here's Shape Tracer and Shape Tracer 2. If your students haven't used OzoBlockly before, which some of you said that you had not used them in the classrooms, this is a great place to start off. Shape Tracer gives the students somewhat of a goal or a challenge, and then the students have to create a program to complete that challenge. So our goal here was to get Ozobot to trace the shape shown in the preview window over here in the corner. And so the students will put together programs, kind of learn how to create a program using the blocks, and then they can see whether they have created the proper program just by running it here in the corner. So I'm not really going to go in depth on this. We've already done a webinar on that. Again, you can go back into ozobot.com and see all of our past webinars, and you can rewatch them. So I'm just going to go back out and go to our ozoblockly.com, click on Get Started, and here's where we get into our main editor. So now I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Teresa, and she's going to be showing you how to navigate this editor and a little bit more about mode 5. So let me go ahead and switch her as the presenter really quickly. Okay, sorry, it just takes a minute to switch over.
Okay, so let's see, I'll show this. All right.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this. Okay, so if you're familiar with OzoBlockly, then you will know that this box right here used to be gray and now it's not, which means you can click on it. So very exciting.
Yay!
And just to point out, some people think that Bit can't use OzoBlockly, but just as a reminder, tell your friends that Bit can definitely do a lot of the things that Evo can do. So what I'm actually going to do is go through the categories for Bit, just so you can see what you can really do with Bit. And then I'll go into what Evo's got going on. There's also some special new stuff in modes 3 and 4. So I'll show you that in a second. So just go ahead and through the categories. We have an option for button press, which means that the power button that you click on your Bit or Evo can tell the robot something. So when you use these blocks, pressing the button doesn't turn off your bot anymore. It will count how many times you press the button. So that means in order to turn off your bot, you have to press and hold. So in case you're like, oh my gosh, it's never turning off, that's what you need to know. And I also really want to point out, especially with all these new blocks, that we have our reference guide, which is this book here on the right side tab. And anytime you click on a block, if you have auto help on, which is normal, it's going to take you to explain each block. And we encourage you to have your students also get used to this feature if they want to start exploring on their own. It's pretty easy to use, and we have some examples of use cases here. So I'm not gonna like go into like super depth into each and every block, but I'm just gonna kind of talk about the categories and then show you some examples so you can see how these are actually working. And then I'll even I'll put my webcam back on. You can see what my bot is doing. So as you read up on these blocks, you'll find out that for this particular category, you need to set this block first, or whenever you're ready to. This one right here, capture button press. Because maybe you want to capture button presses during a certain part of your program, then you can have another one of these and set it to false. So now, once this is set to false again, if you hit the button, that'll turn off your robot and your program. So that's how that would work. And yeah, like I said, there's going to be an example a little bit later, show you some ways that would work. Okay, and moving on down, let's see. In math, we've added some new blocks that are called bitwise operators. They're pretty like specific. They work with the binary form of an integer. You may or may not use this very often, but I'm just going to point out that they're there. And I do have an example with one or two of these blocks, so that's new, but we'll not bore you with the binary stuff just now. We also have setting a random number generator seed. So I have an example with that. So yeah, in math, we've got some new stuff. So that was button. Math, we're gonna go down to arrays. So an array and a list, there are two ways to sort of create some memory for your robot. And in OzoBlockly, they're sort of defined in their own specific way. So for an array, you click on this block, you'll notice it doesn't look like a puzzle piece. So it doesn't connect to anything. And you can name it. So my array, and maybe it's a length of like 5. And then once you've actually declared your array, you'll see that these blocks suddenly appeared. So just FYI, when you want to declare an array, you'll declare it first, then you get this access to these blocks. So now I can start accessing this. Since many of you do teach computer science, you may be aware that arrays start at 0, not at 1. So in this case, if my array length is 5, then the elements start at 0. So the elements, sort of like the numbering of all the things you're going to put in your array, go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what we might expect. And then for arrays, I'll just quickly show you what you can do. And don't worry, there's exciting examples soon. Just going to do this quick show off. So then you can set values and get the length, which is pretty much set. I'll just trash that. Now, compared to that, a list, you can only ever have one, whereas arrays you can have multiple. And what's cool about lists is you can set an element to the end of the list. Unlike the array, which is a set length, the list, you can grow it, and you can pop off the last element. And so let's get to the exciting stuff. I'm going to go to, so I'm in mode 5. I've hit this on the right side, the third button on the right. These are our examples. So I'm going to show you this example with arrays. So this example is called get set with Fibonacci because it's the Fibonacci sequence. You can get values and you can set values. So kind of working my puns to the limit there. But so what I'm going to do is show you what this program looks like. And while I'm kind of setting that up, go ahead and read through this program, see if you can kind of guess what's going to happen. So I'll just load this up. What do you think, Tara? What's going to happen?
I'm not sure. I'm really excited to see this.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, my bot is ready. And I want to show my webcam. So if I click that, what do you see?
I see you.
Okay. Do you have to change the size, or does everyone change their own size for them?
Oh yeah. So if you're looking at you're looking at Teresa right now, you can make that little box a little bit bigger if you want to see closer up. So yeah, you have the option to make the screen a little bit bigger in
in your window.
the window.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start this program. So it's just loading up. Okay, and I'm also assuming that a lot of you know the Fibonacci sequence itself. Basically, it's, how does it go? I think it's 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. So the, I'm going to take off my, no, that was fine. So when you look back at the program, what we were able to do is to, in the array, we have 13 elements in the array, and we've done like a mathematical operation so that the first element is 0, as in element 0 is 0, element 1 is 1, and then we can have the math adding up the two previous numbers, so in your list. So we have 0 and 1 as the first two. Then when you add them up, you get 1. Then you look at the previous two, you see 1 and 1. You add them up, you get 2. Then you add up those two, you get 3. And the way to demonstrate that is with this program, which I'll show you again, causes your robot to make a spiral. And anytime you teach Fibonacci or look at it or find out about it, you see this spiral that starts off kind of small and then it extends larger and larger, and you see these spirals in nature. So what I do with this program is take a long exposure photo, and that will actually make it look like a spiral. And a little bit later, I'll see if I can find it. It's in my computer somewhere. I'm sharing that with you. Okay, so let's move on. So that's how you might use an array. And now let's look at lists. Okay, this is cool. So this is demonstrating that the length of your list can start at 0 and it can grow up to 127, which is our positive integer limit, and then be decreased. So let me run all, am I still, okay. I'm gonna run this program. All right, and the way it works is that you activate behind it to cause it to move and to turn, and it's remembering its movements. Then once I put something in front of it, it's gonna do the entire program backwards. So I can even run it again, make it do something different. And it's straight, and then once you put something in front, it's also measuring your pauses. So it's not measuring, it's also remembering any kind of 0 value. So if I run the program again, I'm not touching it, and then I'm going to touch it, and then wait, touch it, and then wait. And then when I activate the front, it's waiting, going back, waiting, going back, and then it's technically waiting until it ends the program. So that's how that works. Okay. So yes, so lists and arrays in OzoBlockly are not exactly the way you might use them in software development, but they have their own benefits while using them for your bit or Evo. And I know I'm using my Evo, but if you look at the examples and you see a picture of bit example program, and we'll be putting in the logos as well, then it will work for bit as well. Okay, so the next one is the button press. Okay, so I'm also taking advantage of a function where these pink blocks, so I've got the function call here. So on the left here is the program. On the right is my function definition. So this is the program that's running. So when I start it, it'll turn pink. And I did this capture button press event. So I also added a comment. If you click on any kind of question mark that you see, you can add or read any kind of comment. So this block is to turn, oh, this is me letting you know to turn off your bot, hold the power button in case you forgot or didn't look it up. So, and then here I've got some little comments, not this one, but So the way this program works is in 2 seconds, I will either press no times, or I'll press once, I'll press twice, or I'll press 3 times within that 2-second time frame. And then my bot will perform whatever action is in each of these. So this is the fun. It's kind of like, it's called Press for Adventure. It's kind of like choose your own adventure. But there are different ways to use button press. It doesn't have to just be this way. And we'll be coming out with lessons, or if you come up with any and share them with us, we'd love to use them. So I'm going to load up this program into my bot. And if you're wondering how I'm doing this magic, I am using the Evo app.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my bot is pink. So if I press it once, it's going to do our little disco lights, which are fun. If I double press it, it'll do police. If I do 1, 2, 3 really fast, it's going to go ahead and do that little rotate that I've got there. If I do it 4 times, it's not going to do anything because I didn't specify 4. And if I do 0 presses, it won't do anything. And then again, you would have to hold it to turn off your bot. Since I'm using the app, I don't have to do that. So yeah, so that's how you would use button press. We can move on to the next thing. Taking advantage of our random number generator seed. So this program is referencing a program from, I believe it's mode 4. So I'm going to switch to mode 4 and take a look at, okay, so we also have random walk. So I'm going to open up random walk, and you'll see it's this repeat loop with colors, movements, and rotations. So all I did was I took that program and I made it so it was short, but I had it run with a number generator seed. So what's going to happen is every time I run this program, or every time you run this program, you're going to see the same sequence of 10 movements and events every time you run the program. So I'll run it a couple of times so you can see. So it's kind of light blue and turned left, and green, and then cyan. So that's sort of what's happening here. So I'll turn off, and then I'll restart it. So you're kind of seeing it's the same thing. It's going in the same place. So for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with random number seeds, it's basically an algorithm that will create a random sequence of numbers, but it's the same sequence every time that you run it, which can be useful for debugging, or maybe if you want the same behaviors for multiple bots to kind of make it look like they're all doing the same thing, but it's sort of random. So that's how you might use that. Okay. Let's see, what do we got here? This next one is, okay. So this one's called always even because I use the binary form of the number to using the bitwise operation so that it will always tell me an even number no matter what. I'm not going to go into how, but I'm going to show you in the reference where you can read more on how it works. We'll to 48, 28, 64, 64, 88, 4, 64, 82. Okay, so you can hear that. So all those were even, and that could be useful for something that you want to build. And just since we're talking about it right now, I'm just going to go back to the reference and point out anytime you see these bitwise blocks, we linked to the Wikipedia page, which has a nice sort of explanation of how it works on the binary numbers. So you can definitely check that out in your own time. And we have one more, remix to disco. So the disco light animation you might be familiar with. It's my favorite. I played it earlier. So this program, I put in lots of comments because I wanted to kind of like tell you exactly how I accomplished this. First, the program will run the disco light animation, and then using the random number generator seed, it's going to kind of randomize the lights in front of Evo. but it's not going to randomize the top flight. So I only have I forgot to mention, we also have some sort of new light blocks that you can check out. Oh, sorry, for Evo. So for Evo, we've got this new block that is, you can access the surface color with this, and the top one as well. So let's see, I'll just go ahead and run it so you can see what I'm talking about. So let's see, I'll put it back down. And this one is disco. So it's running the disco lights first, the original program, then it runs my program, which removed the top light. So this is just sort of like me applying, I'll do it again. It's me applying a bunch of the new blocks that we've got to some specific end. So first it's got the top light, and then it's just the front lights. That was pretty fun. So you can make your own light animations as well, in different ways now. So let's see, I also need to show you some Evo specific code blocks. I'll go ahead and clear my editor space. Sounds. So we now have some music notes. Very, very fun. As you can see, those are the notes that you've got. We can do octaves 5 through 8 and then time that's going to run. And for in mode 5, we also have this one playing a specific frequency. If you want to know more about how this works, we do have another kind of link in the reference about this. So basically, Evo can create a noise based on a frequency that we've set with these numbers, and this website will show you how the notes that you would put in, the numbers that you would put in, would relate to a real note. Okay, so anything else in here? So that's that. But what's also really exciting is if your kids are younger, you're not going into mode 5 maybe, is that music notes are always also in mode 4. We've got this one, and in mode 3, we've got play the note. So there's different sort of levels of editability here that you can kind of check out on your own. And I made a special song, yes, that I'm going to play for you. Hopefully you can hear it. I might put my bot over next to the recording computer. Okay. And then, Terry, you have to tell me what the song is. It's quiet.
Oh, it's really low. Oh, it's Aladdin, or oh, Beauty and the Beast, Tales Old as Time.
Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully you guys can hear this.
Okay, so the lower frequencies are kind of hard to hear. That does play.
So I get a lot of questions. We do say that you can, use Ozobot in history classes and art classes and music classes. And I'm like, how are you able to use this in a music class? And there you go. There's one example.
There it is. There it is. Okay, great. So this was sort of like, it took a little time for me to figure out what the notes are for the song. And yeah, you can make a song, but for sure you can have notes play a certain kind of note when your bot sees a type of intersection, when your bot sees a color. When you activate one of Evo's proximity sensors, you can have one note for each sensor or for 2 sensors. So you can have it like an ocarina, which would be super fun, would be a great project idea. So that's how you could use these music notes. Anything I'm missing on this? I'll move on to lessons just now. But
just one thing to point out too, I don't know if everyone caught this in the beginning, but you do have to switch between the bit and Evo block depending on what bot you're using. I know a lot of people kind of miss that. You'll see that Teresa's switching between the two right now. So you actually have to click on that bit or Evo button to switch between the two, depending on what model you're using. So just keep that in mind. If you're in the Evo section and you're using a bit, then it won't load properly. So yeah, you just want to make sure you're in the right category.
Mm-hmm. I do have a couple more things, I guess, that we've been kind of sending up updates. So here's something new is that we give you an approximate time that it would take to flash your program. So my song would take about 2 minutes to flash, load onto my bot. So that can be useful. Like we know that a lot of young students throw in light animations, and you can see how much time that adds. So you can kind of encourage them, like maybe use less, look at the time go down. You kind of recommend just one until like maybe all you want is a light show. And anything else that's going on? In mode 5, there's also a bit more that you can do with your settings. So you can explore that in your own time as you like, but I'm going to move on to lessons. So I'll head over to our lesson library through the website, kind of reiterating how you can find it. You can also bookmark it. Portal.ozobot.com will get you there. And let's see here. So using the search, this is fun if you want to keep up to date what are new lessons. Just in this filter, if you just click past month and search with nothing else, it's going to give you everything we've posted in the last 30 days. And we have a ton of lessons from our favorite Richard Bourne. He's got a lot of great content that he's made for us, not even just for older grades of Mode 5, but like this first lesson that pops up is great for practicing adding, subtracting, and multiplying. So you could use the maps that he's created. And I also want to point out importantly that in our lesson library, we've got the OzoBlockly programs here too. On the left, if you want to download the program itself and save it to your computer, that's what will happen. But if you click the OzoBlockly preview, and I'll do that now, it's going to open up OzoBlockly.com, and it's going to be the program. I just want to point out that that's because when you save a program as a link, it creates this special code, and then you can bookmark it, you can share it. It's a great way to kind of, it also works on the iPad this way, because on the iPad you can't save the file, but you can save the link. So this would be great for that. So yes, so this is making use of arrays. And in this case, your students don't have to program this in the sense that they're going to make this program. It's already made. You instead are going to load the program for them, and then they will use the robot to practice adding, subtracting, and multiplying. I'll go back to other programs, lessons, sorry. If you want to get started teaching things that we have put into Mode 5, the OzoBlockly Array Primer is great. It's going to be a bunch of activities that teach students what an array even is and how to give your bot a memory. This works for Bit and Evo. And a lot of really fun things, so like a simulation of a robotic warehouse, you can check that out. There's even poker hands at your discretion, playing that in your classroom. I don't know how kosher that is, how we do it. This one's super cool. It's another art activity. You can actually make, so this is also using, what's it called? Like the long exposure photo. So you program your robot to, basically this picture of the cactus is one robot, and you've programmed it to be certain colors at certain intervals, and it'll kind of go down across the page, and it'll form the picture. So you would start by planning your picture, and then you would go into the program with this template and edit it, and the lesson walks you through how you would do that. This is also making use of arrays and other things, functions. So even if you're curious about some of our bigger, more complex programs, these would be great to kind of investigate and deconstruct if you're interested. But I'm going to show you an example of a lesson. I'm showing off this one because it's a lot of things that you do in computer science would be to come up with an algorithm to achieve some sort of goal, often related to mathematics. So in this one, you create a program to only announce prime numbers. So I'll go ahead and show you the answer to that one. Prime numbers. Search for it, prime, open it up, show you this one. Okay, so for this map, I will turn it upside down. Okay, so you'll start after 0, and the lesson will walk you through it. And let's see, prime numbers. Okay. Yeah. So this is fun for me because I kind of like try to remember what's the next number in prime. So it's kind of like maybe good for memory or something. So this program looks like it goes up to 126, and it's kind of like saving up. It does the, let's see. So it's performing the math. Let's see, where is it? Okay. Got it. So this is using a couple of, okay, so we've got the array there. And we set the first couple of elements, and then we're using our iterating loops. And then we're comparing whatever number we're on to whether or not it is a prime number. And if it is a prime number, then you will say whatever number the bot is on at this moment. So yeah, you can definitely explore that. Let's see what else there is. You can definitely just go through all of these lessons. Our most recent lessons, and we'll continue to add more. There's the musical tour one, and Composer will help you to make songs if you want to. They are kind of like time intensive in terms of loading them onto your bot, so just playing that out. And then just practicing some cool new concepts. Tara, is there anything else that I may have missed?
No, I think that covers it all.
Okay.
Everything in mode 5. So what we'll go ahead and do is open it up to questions now. We have some time. So go ahead and write your questions in that little question section. We'll read them out loud for you. I have a question for you, Teresa. The button press.
Yeah.
How many button presses can I do at once?
Okay. So my screen's still open. So once I set it to true, I do want to capture them. So I think that I'll pretty much be counting them. And then let's see, I can do say number to get button press count. So if this is your program, and I'm pretty sure you need to put a whole like loop on it so it can capture that. It would go up to, I'm pretty sure it'd be 127 because that's the cap. So in Ozoblockly, the highest number you can have is positive 127, and the lowest is negative 128.
So how many do you recommend?
Okay, so
would someone use 127 button presses?
So what you could do is you would, I'll show you. What you can do is, some of you will be familiar with the, I think it's minuend. I think there's another word for it, where you can basically get the remainder of a division question, so that if it's whatever number, let's say it's just, I don't know, get the button press and divide it by 2. So in this case, I think for this program, it will basically, it'll only speak the number if the number, well, it'll actually, sorry, it'll give you the remainder. So it's going to actually just tell you 1 or 0. 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. So in this case, it's going to give you back and forth 1, 0, 1, 0, which we've seen as, let's say you have a 2-player game and you're ready to let the other player continue their game. You press the button and it switches to them, and then press the button again, switch it to your user. So that's a specific use case.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sure.
I know a lot of people want to test limits on that one.
Perfect.
All right. So there was a few people that did make a comment about this being pretty advanced, and they probably wouldn't start off here, which, yes, this is master mode. So this is for students who are a little more advanced. If you do want to check out an intro to OzoBlockly, then we do have that webinar up on our website. So you just go to the educators tab, like I did at the beginning of the webinar, and then click on what webinars in PD, and all of our past webinars are recorded and posted there, so you can take a look at that. And they're more than just intro to OzoBlockly, just intro to using Bit, intro to using Evo, Hour of Code webinars. So you can visit that site and then get more education on just starting off using OzoBlockly.
And then I'll point out that if you do want to get started with even just introducing it to your class, in the lesson library, when you click OzoBlockly Basic Training at the top, we have what we're calling our mini lesson right now, which would be like a 1-session lesson just to teach the editor and how to get programs onto your bot, how you would calibrate it to the screen if you need to. And then these lessons go in order where we just teach skills that you would use for your robot, especially with what we call free movement. So we have our line following capabilities and then without. So a lot of the programs that I make are called free movement. You can kind of learn more about that through this series of lessons, and we'll have line navigation lessons as well coming up. And I'll point out that this lesson, basic training number 3, is a pair programming lesson. So the coding itself isn't super intense, but it does teach kids how to work in pairs or more, which is a great skill to have. And then the shape tracer games that you were showing earlier as well, if you want to just kind of get them into that.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then even just kind of exploring mode 3, looking at the examples in mode 3 or going through our lessons, searching OzoBlockly in our lessons, you'll find some more content so you can kind of move up.
Okay. Let's see, will I need to perform a firmware update on the bots to access the master level 5 content?
You do not. It's all already there. It's been the block's been made that already would work with the bot, which is why these also work for Bit already. Yeah, so no update necessarily needed.
Okay. If we are middle school but new to Ozobots, where would you suggest we begin without making it seem like it's for young children? Well, let's see. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You have the screen. I was looking at how to show my screen.
Okay. Well, on our lesson portal, as you kind of scroll down, we have separated these sections into grade groups. So it was middle school?
Yes, middle school.
Okay. So we do have a bunch of this sort of math science-centric lessons. They're actually made for a lot of them for Bit, since Evo is still rather new. And you can kind of see more of these lessons that are aimed at that age group. So they would see okay, that's fun, or maybe it's about binary, maybe it's about astronomy, slope. I know, so linear algebra or linear equations, would be a big topic. You can do that, some chemistry stuff. Building a timer is a programming lesson. So yeah, that's where you could start. And then even as you progress through OzoBlockly, it gets a bit more complex.
One of our educators on right now said that they teach middle school and the students don't feel like it's for little kids at all.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, great. And then I forgot to mention that our deconstruction lessons that we've been promoting currently specially made for 6th grade and up, and they're specifically for teaching computer science. These series will teach you variables, conditional statements, loops, Boolean, and they're a little series. So each group is 5 lessons where students deconstruct a game that uses all these coding ideas and see how they actually work. And then they can see like, oh, well, if I want to build a robot that can see color, I need if statements. So they start to be able to see like, oh, well, that's what I need. I'll just use it. You don't have to describe everything in detail. And then at the end of the course, students will build their own game based on whatever game it was. So the first one is like a points game. Second one is a bit more interactive. You actually move a piece of paper that's black that the robot can see to bounce it off and try to collect points. And the last one is a hockey simulator, so students can start building maybe their own sports or maybe make it more interactive. So that's definitely aimed at middle school, could even be for high school.
Another good question. Will you have demos at ISTE this year? Yes, we are currently prepping for ISTE right now. Definitely stop by our booth. We'll have a big booth with some new, fun, cool features that we're going to show off. And actually, we'll both be there. So come by and say hi to us. We'll have some really cool games that you can play, maybe win some prizes, and then you can see some of the future things that we have brewing here at Ozobot.
And we're also ready to listen to you. So if you have any wish list items, we want to hear from you for sure.
So come ready to play and then give us your feedback too at the booth. This one I'm going to loop together because there are a couple of these questions. So for iPad users, do we simply use the Evo app? Will it have the same interface and features? And then another one that was connected to this is it still best to program the bots using flashcodes in the classroom? It seems like I read somewhere not to use the Evo app with multiple bots.
For sure. So the Evo app does not have OzoBlockly in it, so you can't program there. You would still go to the website. So you don't need the app for this at all. I think the app is more ideal for sort of rapid prototyping and sending programs to your bot. In a classroom setting, it can take a lot of time to make sure you've got the bot in front of you, you're connected, and kids know what they're doing. If you've got a class of kids that do know what they're doing, you could probably get away with it. But I do recommend continuing to use Flash for sure.
Yeah. And then someone asked if they can use Safari from the iPad to program. You can use Safari, although the recommended browser is Chrome. Chrome is a little bit more reliable to work with, but you can definitely use Safari as well.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm new to OzoBlockly. Is there a way for students to save their program? Do they have accounts?
Perfect. Yes. Okay. So there are a few ways. So you can still see my screen. There's this icon, file folder. When you click it, you can open a file that you've saved or save the file. This is for laptops and desktops. You can't use that on a tablet because there's no way to save that kind of file. There's a restriction on files that you can save. And then you can get the link. So if I were to get this link, it's going to give me a link to copy. And if I exit, it's still here. So if you actually want to go to this program right now, you could literally type in #9z2hcs and you would get this program. If you edit the program, that does not edit anything on this link. This link is permanently what I have here. It'll always exist, can't be changed. So if you make a program to share with your students, you can give them that hash and then the 6 digits. And they can't mess with it. Once they edit it, it becomes their own. And so the thing with Evo is that there is a way to save them in here. It's currently designed for a single user for at-home Evo use. And we don't have a specific way to use this in the classroom. If you decide on a way to do that, that's fine. We don't recommend it at this time. So saving links and saving files are the best way. And you can email the links, you can email the file as well.
Saving files on Chromebooks. So So
all the same, yeah.
yeah.
I think the Chromebook can accept, so I'll show you what would happen. Although it might not. Let me see. I'm just gonna change it so that you can see my whole desktop. Okay, I don't know if you'll really be able to see this, but basically when you save the file, just whatever it is, so you can't see it right now because I set it to only show my browser, but basically it saves your file as a .ozo code. So you might have a file called .pdf, that's a PDF, or a .jpeg. This is a .ozocode, and that's what you end up saving. It's a physical thing. And in order to open it in OzoBlockly, you have to go through here. You have to click open file here, and then that will search in your computer. And then, so for example, I'm just going to open a random program, this one. So I've saved this on my computer. So you can't drag the file into the editor. You would open it through this. Okay. Okay.
I see one comment that is, I teach children and adults at a public library and all ages find Ozobot interesting within their abilities. Coding with OzoBlockly is aimed more at those who can read, which you were actually talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
You can talk about it.
Okay. There are two groups of non-readers. There's the youngest ones, then there are ESL. So if you are in OzoBlockly and you click on mode 1, you do get picture blocks, which is great for what we would call pre-readers. They can kind of figure it out. So in this case, the youngest can kind of put something together and they can figure it out. The blocks work the same way. You still click them together. You can still load the program. It would work this way. Now, I also want to point out that in mode 2, there are little pictures along the side. So if students are ESL or maybe kids still have trouble reading, they can still use these images. Hopefully the loops, maybe there's not so many, they can kind of figure it out. Mode 3 still has the pictures on the block. So you can kind of use that, but I know that, so for play happy, maybe they don't know what is happy. Excuse me. The mode 1 blocks would have the pictures for that.
Let's see. Someone asked if we've ever paired Ozobot with example Makey or Scratch. So, I mean, speaking of Makey and some other products, yes, you can combine them. I think one example that I've always used is 3D printers. Mm-hmm. So you can take Ozobot and use them. Let's say one example that I had from a science teacher was they were doing animal classification, and the students had to come up with their own animal, classify it, and then go over to the 3D printer and actually print out their little animal and stick it on top of the Ozobot or the skin, so that when it interacted with all the other animals in the class, they could kind of tell their robots apart. So that's just one way of how you can use it with a 3D printer. Teresa showed an example of the hockey game earlier, and that used the 3D printer to create little arms for the robot to move around and gather the little pucks. So that is another way to use that. There are some other ways that, the robots have been used together with other robots as well. Mm-hmm. And those examples are on our website if we have some of those. And you can find them floating around the web too. I've seen a lot of them.
Someone shared this. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. And then this is the example of the Fibonacci sequence in nature that Teresa was talking about earlier, how you can kind of see it.
So this would be great to put into any science class. Even the youngest kids think these are amazing.
Yeah, thank you to Stephen for giving us that link.
Yeah. But back to integrating with other things. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So if you, we have a group on Facebook called Ozo Academy, and a lot of people like to share what they've got. We've got some really great users that actually design 3D things. There was a 3D spider that someone made, which was really great, that you could get the design from him and print it in your own thing, and then set it for your bot. And then when you do, I can't remember the name of the website, but there are some that have 3D templates. You can search Ozobot, and some will come up that people have designed. So yeah, that'd be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
I know there are some people that will tape or otherwise adhere a marker to their bot. In some way, you gotta get it just right so it doesn't kind of slow the robot down, and then have it draw for you or something. There was another lesson that we had, I think, where a teacher made a 3D printed kind of like body around the bot, and then a separate thing that you can put a marker into, so it could walk around and color.
That was fun. I was drawing. If you guys have any, if you guys want to go out and do demos at conferences, someone was asking about this as well, you can definitely reach out to us and we can give you some information on just things that we talk about at the conferences, how we present to the other educators there. So if you are going out and doing these, let us know, and then we can show you all the things that we kind of like walk educators through when we're demoing there. So definitely reach out. And of course, it's ozoedu@ozobot.com if you have any questions or you want to submit any lessons. You can always reach out to us there. There's a lot of other questions about getting started. Again, differences between BIT and EVO, starting off with OzoBlockly. They're all previous webinars that we've done and that we go in a little more depth, because right now we can only answer questions in a minute or so. So please check out that educator section, webinars and PDs, and then you can see all those past webinars and the different topics that we've gone over. We are running really short, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off questions. If we didn't answer your question, please reach out to ozoedu@ozobot.com. We're also going to send a follow-up email for all the attendees of this webinar, and it will go over some of the links and lessons that we've covered today, and you can go ahead and just respond back to that if you have any questions. The Facebook page was Ozo Academy. Someone just asked that really quickly. And again, if you have time or you're going to ISTE, please stop by and see us. We'd love to meet you and just come prepared with any questions or suggestions that you had. Thanks for joining us today. Look out for our next webinar. It will probably be sometime next month. And if you do have any suggestions on topics for for new webinars, just go ahead and reach out to OzoEdu, and we welcome all the suggestions. Thank you again for attending, and hopefully we'll see you at the next webinar.
Thanks.